Hey, 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 happy Thursday. Come on in, pull up a chair. The Daily Dope is in the air. Howdy, 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 gang. Yes, I'm Jeff McAleer, back once again as your host here at The Daily Dope, presented by thegaminggang.com. Hooray! Hey, sorry about that little pause there. It took a second for the screen to switch over from the little boom at the end. Anyway, today is Thursday, June 27th. Good evening, welcome aboard. This is episode 323 of the Daily Dope. So, got a lot cooking tonight. I am going to be kind of paging through, I'm going to be reviewing the Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay starter set from my pals over at Cubicle Entertainment, as well as Games Workshop. So we are going to be taking care of that in just a bit. Got a little surprise to pop out. We'll take a few minutes taking a peek at the surprise, and then of course I've got the tabletop gaming news of the day, so we should have a nice full show tonight. Do want to point out, if this is your first time joining me, this is a live stream, even if you're watching it after the fact, so the show's a little bit different than a lot of the tabletop gaming programs or videos that you might watch. Because the show is live, there is chat available on YouTube. Chat's not on screen. It's one of the ways that I keep some of these stranger commenters at bay, but I do pay attention to chat. So if you want to say howdy, or maybe you've got a question, or maybe there's something about the starter set you want to get a better look at, by all means, please chime in. Of course, if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you check out some of the videos on the Gaming Gang channel and you dig them, please subscribe. And don't forget, ring that little bell, because not only will that tell you when a new video has been uploaded to YouTube, it'll also tell you when the stream goes live, within about 5 minutes or so. And of course, do me a favor, tell a friend about thegaminggang.com, the Gaming Gang YouTube channel, and of course, the Daily Dope. In fact, tell 2 friends. So, I've got a good deal of news today. I'm going to hop into it right off the bat, going to jump right on in. Do want to point out, I know there are folks out there who don't like the tabletop gaming news segments on the show. If you are one of those folks, just look in the good old show notes down below. You'll see the timestamps. You can skip ahead, skip past the tabletop gaming news, get right on into the review for the starter set. Hey, Dan from No Enemies here is popping in too. Good to see you, Dan. Welcome aboard. Hopefully you got the video that I sent you earlier today. So let's hop into the news, because good old Flying Pig Games has launched their Kickstarter for Old School Tactical Volume 3, The Pacific, and I've Got the Dope. Old School Tactical Volume 3 brings the popular OST system to the Pacific theater of World War II. Fight in the jungles and on the beaches against both the Imperial Japanese Army and Naval Marine units. Unlike other OST soldiers, the fanatical Japanese have no gut check number, preferring death to dishonor. The Japanese also come with the new tank killer units and, of course, rules for the feared bonsai attack. The Americans answer with canister rounds from their Stuart tanks, the famed Marine firepower and discipline, and plenty of armor and artillery support. We want to make Old School Tactical the best game we can make. Those who have backed any of our previous projects know that we make high-quality, high-fun war games. Old School Tactical Volume 3 Pacific War 1942 to 45 will be no different. Thick counters, colorful rules, a huge mounted map, but even more importantly, a solid game system backed by tense, well-tested scenarios. The game ships with 16 of those scenarios, including Alligator Creek, Henderson Field, Edson's Ridge, Guadalcanal, in the Coconut Grove, Bougainville, First Clash, Guadalcanal, and more. New units include Chiha and Hago tanks, Japanese sappers, Type 99 light machine guns, Type 92 heavy machine guns, Type 89 mortars, and more. On the American side, there are LVTs, flamethrower tanks, Marine rifle units, Army rifle units, 37mm anti-tank guns, yeah, it fires canister, just to name a few as well. It's all packed into the quick plank fun of old school tactical set in the 10th Pacific Theater of Operations. There is a rather short Kickstarter video. It's about a minute long, no more than that. So let's take a peek at what's in store in Old School Tactical Volume 3. Old School Tactical Volume 3 is for 2 players, ages 14 and up. Plays in 60 minutes or more, depending on the scenario. You can reserve a copy for a $75 pledge through July 27th. The project is funded. It funded earlier today. In fact, it funded in about 4.5 hours. Do want to mention there's also an expansion add-on called Hellbent, which you can actually add in the Pledge Manager. It will be available for $35. Expected delivery is pretty quick. Mark and the team, over at Flying Pig Games are expecting it to be available January of next year. So pretty sweet, pretty cool. I gotta say, what was it with that video though? Come on, couldn't get a little better footage there? Jeez. And what was the iMovie and Flying Pig Games presents? A Flying Pig Games and iMovie presentation or something like that. It's like, is Apple part of this? Mark can be goofy sometimes, in a funny way. I'm just like, what were you thinking? But, anywho, good to see Lead Magnets popped in. How's it going, Lead? So let's move on to the next news piece. Arcane Wonders has a lot cooking this fall. I've talked about some of the releases coming up. And one title that's on the horizon is the card game Architectura. And I've got the dope. The most eminent architects came here to erect a magnificent city with the best theaters, greenhouses, and taverns. Oh yeah, taverns, yes, good deal. Each architect wants to make the most significant contribution to the city construction, but their ambitions will inevitably lead to a challenging competition. In Architectura, your table turns into a grid of city streets and blocks. Each building you construct affects the value of the adjacent buildings, or even destroys them. Let's say you've just built a magnificent temple. A vulgar market around the corner doesn't belong there anymore and has to be shut down right away. But a park near the temple's entrance will definitely be a good match, and will even profit from the divine proximity. Rotate the cards to change their values, resolve their special effects, and do your best to carefully manage your options and become the best architect in the city. Play Architectura by the basic rules or by the advanced rules, in which you assemble a unique deck for each player. Whichever version you play, each game will be different. Architectura is for 3 to 5 players, ages 14 and up, plays in around an hour, and will carry an MSRP of $19.99 when it arrives in stores in September. Seems kind of interesting. Seems kind of unique. Architectura. What a wild name. The game is originally from Hobby World, and it is going to be released in North America by Arcane Wonders. So looks like an interesting, kind of interesting card game there. Kabuki Kid has popped in. Good to see you, Kabuki. Thanks for joining us in chat tonight. So there's a lot going on in September. September will also see the release of a new role-playing game system from Modiphius Entertainment. And here's the dope on Black Void. In the days when Babylon was the greatest city on Earth, mankind lived in placid ignorance of the grandeur, vastness, and horror of the cosmos. I think to some extent we still do, don't we? So, following the cataclysmic events on Earth, what? What are you what? Did I miss something? The fragile veil between reality and the void was shattered and the truth of existence was revealed. As mankind cried to their gods for salvation, they were torn from Earth by void torrents. What, like, downloads? Wah, wah. And the surviving peoples were scattered among the stars. Countless were lost, and mankind seemed all but perished. Over the decades, the lone survivors, stragglers, and ragged remnants of mankind's tribes struggled for survival across countless uncaring worlds. However, a few managed to go beyond mere substance and traveled the void currents to find fabled Leon, epicenter of the cosmos. The survivors congregated and created enclaves within the Eternal City, small communities where mankind could survive and start to rebuild all which was lost. You are descendants of the survivors from Earth, the lost cradle of humanity. Leon is your home now, swarming with outlandish life forms, eccentric demons, and fickle demigods. It is a swelling cosmopolitan of intrigue, wonder, treachery, corruption, beauty, decadence, and eldritch menace. Behind you lie the smoldering ruins of a once great species, trying to reclaim former glory. Before you, the mysteries of Leanne, or whatever, however it's pronounced, and a vast, treacherous cosmos. This core rulebook is going to carry an MSRP of $50. Then there's Black Void, Those Who Would Be Gods. The Kwamza, once mortal Babylonians, were forever changed by their exposure to the void, and otherworldly entities followed the cataclysmic. Wow, why did I have a hard time saying that? Hey, Flaming Huron's here. Good to see you, Flaming Huron. Let's try this one more time. The Kwasba, once mortal Babylonians, were forever changed by their exposure to the void and otherworldly entities following the cataclysmic events on Earth. Their quest for power was sparked by outrage at mankind's mistreatment and a desire to find Earth once more. The abduction of an enclave elder sparks a chain of events that reveals dark, furtive ties to the past, rattles the tenuous stability of the Ferrandi enclave, and threatens all of mankind. The central themes, species, and locations of the Black Void setting are showcased throughout the campaign to introduce new players to the overall spirit of the game, as it takes the protagonist on a harrowing journey through multiple districts of the Eternal City, into the dark and deadly jungles of Leon, and across the void to an ominous border world where those who would be gods dwell. The Those Who Would Be Gods campaign is presented in 3 parts. The plot has linear milestones for characters to achieve, with numerous hooks for the protagonist to follow and subplots to further explore if desired. Each part is playable on its own, but they truly come to life when played as a continuing story. The campaign is made for newly created characters, but can be adapted to fit characters that have advanced. Those Who Would Be Gods will carry an MSRP of $20, which seems awfully low. I am not sure if that is correct, but as far as the information I saw from distribution, it says $20. Both Black Void releases are scheduled to arrive in stores in September, and Nefarious Coel has popped in as well. So Nefarious is asking, what RPG system does this use? I don't know. I gotta be honest with you. It might be its own system. I kind of took a peek to find out what Black Void was, because it is actually not advertised right now on the Modiphius website. I got this information through a distributor that I pull info from a lot. And a lot of times they're actually kind of ahead of the curve. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm pretty sure it's not a 2D20, but it seems like this was a Kickstarter that an individual company pulled off, but they're about a year late, maybe a little more than a year late delivering on this. So I kind of think this might be something that funded on Kickstarter, and then Modiphius had to come in and bail them out. That's kind of the impression I sort of have. But as far as the system itself, as far as gameplay mechanics, I found nothing. Even in the old Kickstarter information, still didn't find anything. So it's Thursday. I like showing off RPGs, reviewing RPGs, and so forth. So, of course, let's mention the latest releases for Pathfinder and Starfinder have arrived. They are in stores. I've got the dope from Paizo Inc. First off, we've got the Pathfinder Adventure Path number 143, Born by the Sun's Grace, which is part 5 of Tyrant's Grasp. Sent to a distant land, mighty magic has hurled the heroes across the world to the continent of Arcadia. But their remarkable travel is no accident. In the land of Zopotl, they're going to guess on that, the heroes find ancient legacies that unlock secrets they have carried ever since they awoke in the realm of the dead. But this land of magic and wonder is no safe haven. Agents of the Whispering Tyrant, damn you, Whispering Tyrant, terrorize even this distant nation. If the heroes can overcome followers of wicked new gods and defend a city desperate to revitalize its lost magic, they might learn how to turn the tide against the Whispering Tyrant, damn you, Whispering Tyrant, and put an end to his fearsome weapon forever. From lively festivals and masked brawlers to undead terrors and arcane botany gone horribly wrong, the heroes are sure to find more than they bargained for in a land unlike any other they've seen. This will carry an MSRP of $24.99, just like the vast majority of Pathfinder Adventure Path releases. Then there's also the Pathfinder Pawns Enemy Encounters Pawn Collection. Enemies abound, and finding them is no difficult task in this dangerous world. Thankfully, there are plenty of brave adventurers willing to pit themselves against those that raid and pillage society. This collection of dozens of pawns features groups of common enemies to use with the Pathfinder role-playing game, or any tabletop fantasy role-playing game, as well as a selection of useful terrain features to bring your encounters to life on the map. Printed on sturdy cardstock, each pawn contains a beautiful, full-color image and slots into a size-appropriate plastic base from any of the Pathfinder Pawns Bestiary box collections, making them easy to mix with traditional metal or plastic miniatures. The Enemy Encounters Pawn Collection is the best way to ensure that you've got enough threats to throw at your player characters in every Pathfinder role-playing game encounter. Dozens of monstrous foes come to life on your tabletop. Each has its own identification number for easy sorting. This also carries an MSRP of $24.99. Then we've got the Starfinder Adventure Path number 17, Solar Strike, which is part 5 of the Dawn of Flame Adventure Path. Rebels in the Sun. A cry for help from deep within the sun leads the heroes to dive in once more. Forces loyal to Ifrit from the Plane of Fire have conquered the deep sun settlement of a peaceful species, threatening to destroy their way of life. The heroes must infiltrate the occupied city, find allies within, and defeat the fiery oppressors. Damn you, fiery oppressors! Okay, I'm joking. I'll stop doing that. The group acts as a strike team, assisting the rebels, taking out high-value targets and helping to restore order throughout the galaxy. But even if they accomplish these missions, the heroes still have to face the enemy commanders, including a mighty solar dragon, and the discovery that this attack is merely a beachhead for a larger invasion that threatens the packed world's power on the sun. This carries an MSRP of $22.99. Then finally, the fourth major release. There are some flip mats I'm not going to get into. But the fourth major release that's in stores is the Starfinder Rules Reference Cards deck. Access the data. Put the rules of the Starfinder role-playing game at your fingertips. Whether you're a game master and needs convenient reference for starship combat, player who wants summaries of how to use your favorite skills, or a newcomer trying to learn the rules, this 110 card deck features concise guides to essential concepts from the Starfinder core rulebook on handy double-sided cards. Stop flipping back and forth through rulebooks. Start flipping back and forth through cards, I guess. Grab the cards that you need and keep your game moving. Of course, this will carry, this carries, because it's in stores right now, an MSRP of $19.99. Yes. So, those are the Starfinder and Pathfinder releases that are in stores. I want to say, I think they hit yesterday. Pretty sure it came out. They all came out yesterday. So, I don't know what's going on with Paizo and the press contact with Paizo. Kind of getting the impression that this person is going to turn out to be like the previous press contact I had dealt with a few years back, who it was couldn't twist their arm for review stuff, but they want you to share all the news. So, giving him about another week, because he said he was sending the adventure card game as well as the first expansion for it. And this is a couple weeks back. This is before Origins. So, I don't know. And he's one of these people where you touch base with them and you get crickets. You hear nothing. Of course, everything comes from them saying, hey, here's this new Paizo release, blah, blah, blah. So we shall find out. So don't be shocked if the Paizo news dries up. So, my final news piece has to do with Arc Dream Publishing, who I mentioned had a new 5th edition adventure, which I thought was pretty wild. Anyway, it's from Arc Dream Publishing. They've got a new Delta Green adventure available in PDF. I've got the dope on A Victim of the Art. Grisly deaths in a seaside town. A serial killer is at work in quiet Glen Ridge, Long Island. Bizarre mutilations mark the victims of the Glen Ridge chiropractor. Serious, that's what it says. As national news and the conspiracy theorists at Phenomenon. No, it's Phenomen X. Why don't they just say Phenomena X? Phenomen X. Call the killer. So they call the killer the Glen Ridge chiropractor. Why couldn't they just present it that way? Privately, the medical examiner is more troubled by residue found on the corpses, a pulpy gray organic substance that defies analysis. When the police ask the FBI for help, Scully and Mulder, nah, just kidding. Delta Green agents answer the call. This is hardly the first serial killer case where Delta Green is suspected unnatural forces, but it might be the most dangerous to body and soul. A Victim of the Art first appeared in the award-winning sourcebook Delta Green Countdown. This new version has been revised for the rules and updated setting of Delta Green, the role-playing game, with new color illustrations by the author. A Victim of the Art is playable with Delta Green Need to Know or Delta Green Agent's Handbook, which are both available from Arc Dream Publishing. The 16-page adventure is available in PDF from Drive-Thru RPG for $4.99. And of course, as I point out all the time, when I mention Drive-Thru RPG, yes, the gaming gang and thus the Daily Dope is an affiliate of the One Bookshelf sites. So if you're going to go to Drive-Thru RPG or any of the One Bookshelf sites, say like Wargame Vault, by all means, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banners. Drive-Thru RPG is up top. Wargame Vault's down on the bottom. And that way, if you do make a purchase, I get a little portion of that sale. And it all adds up. So, Nefarious says maybe Paizo was sending it from their home country of Germany. No. Not read much of Delta Green yet. Bit disappointed to see they dropped the Lux stat from Call of Cthulhu. Nefarious says, always thought it was a nice catch-all and rather unusual. Yeah, but like you just point out, Nefarious, it's pretty easy to stick back in. So, as I mentioned, when I opened up the show, I said I had a surprise. So, yesterday I talked about the Swords and Sorcery, the Sea Demon's Gold, and now I just talked about A Victim of the Art, and look what showed up in the mail today. Ta-da! So, just for the heck of it, let's take a quick peek at these. What do you think? I mean, we got time. I mean, they're only like 16 and 18 pages long. So, let's take a peek. We're gonna go look at Sword and Sorceries here, and I'll just move that off to the side. Let me put on my reading specs. Grab a quick sip. So I have to check out Fall of Delta Green. Ken Hite worked on that, and that looks pretty interesting. Of course, that's through Pelgrane. So let's take a look at Swords and Sorceries, the Sea Demon's Gold for 5th edition D&D. So Nefarious says, I'm going to be stuffing my face with Kung Pao soon anyway. Got the time. There you go. So we kick back a little bit. Just going to take a look here. Zombie Shahagan, awakening shocks, blah, blah, blah. A cleric of the sunlets. And the Valkani fighter Sorga as they explore the Temple of the Sea Demon. So we get an introduction. Very similar layout to the Wizards of the Coast, which I believe is kind of how Wizards of the Coast sort of wants their third-party partners to release stuff to kind of have a kind of same kind of fonts, stuff like that. So, how to get here? The Storm Under the Sea. I apologize if we get some spoilers here. Talking about On the Shore, the Temple. So we have the Temple of the Sea Demon, so it looks like it's a 10-room dungeon, basically. The Deadly Cube. Yeah, some pretty nice artwork. And then we got the appendix with monster and NPC stats. And all in all, 18 pages. Well, 17 because you got the open game license. All right, so here's what kind of threw me for a loop. The MSRP on this is $14.99. That, in my opinion, that's a bit pricey for a 17-page adventure for D&D. Now, I mean, it's possible it could be, a really good adventure. So, you probably get your money's worth. But I don't know. I mean, to me, it seems very pricey. But as I mentioned before, this is available in PDF from DriveThruRPG for $4.99. Which is kind of unusual because normally you will see the PDF is like half price. It's like half the price of the physical product. So that means this should probably really be like $9.99. So I don't know. Do not know. I will actually take a peek through this because Arc Dream Publishing really does some really good stuff. So I don't know. When I saw that $14.99, I was like, zoinks! Okay, so let's take a look at Delta Green, a victim of the art. Once again, probably got some spoilers here. I already kind of read all the kind of like sell sheet info that's on the back anyway. So this is written by Dennis Detwiller. Or Detweiler. So we get the FBI and Delta Green. Oops. Timeline of events. The Perpetrator. Getting started. The Medical Examiner. Phenomenex option. The Coral Nomad option. So that's kind of interesting. So it appears that it's kind of giving you some options as far as how you can approach this. Yes, Dan from No Enemies here says paper is expensive with 4 exclamation points. Paper tain't that expensive. Tain't that expensive, Dooley. So next victims, we got some of the characters. And all in all, this is 16 pages. And this also has an MSRP of $14.99. But, as I pointed out previously, you can get this on Drive-Thru RPG for $4.99. So, Dan says, we've abused our world and now we're paying for it, literally. And unfortunately, that happens to really be the case. So anyway, I just thought kind of share those. I thought it was really funny because I shared that news piece about the Sea Demon's Gold just out of the blue. I ran across it. I thought, oh, that's kind of interesting. Art Dream Publishing is doing a 5th edition adventure. And then I get an email today from Rachel Ivey over at Arc Dream saying, oh, hey, I sent the Sea Demon's Gold and a Victim of the Art. And I was like, oh, okay. And then all of a sudden it's here. I was like, I just got the email like an hour before the mail came, and there it was. So that was kind of wild. So Flaming Heron says, let's all waste coal by having to download the PDFs. That's right. We'll burn some whale oil to power our routers so we can get online and download the PDFs. So what is coming up on the show next week? Well, of course, tomorrow too. Tomorrow's Friday. So on tomorrow's show, I am going to unbox and take a first look at Champions of Hera from Greenbrier Games. Yep, Champions of Hera is kind of a fantasy, like semi-co-op, semi-versus fantasy game. Sounds pretty wild. It really does. So that'll be on tomorrow's show. Then I've got a holiday shortened week next week. So on Monday's show, let me point out that if the Dungeons & Dragons Essential Kit shows up Monday or Tuesday, will be a little bit different as far as what I cover, because I will be covering that. Because I got to point out, the D&D stuff usually brings in some serious viewer numbers. All depends. It's really hit or miss. But it's normally pretty good viewer numbers. So it's supposed to be on its ways. I don't know. Another one of these checks in the mail kind of things, right? So, regardless, on Monday's show, I am going to be reviewing Sorcerer from White Wizard Games. This is kind of a departure for White Wizard, because normally they just do card games. Well, there are cards in this, but there's quite a lot of other things going on in this as well. And if you saw the unboxing video, you already know that the component quality is top-notch, really nicely done. Then on Tuesday's show, I will unbox and take a first look at Ruby Combat Ready from Rooster Teeth and Arcane Wonders. Give you a shot at the back here. Kind of tilt that a little bit. There we go. Get rid of some of that glare. So that will be on Tuesday's show. Then on Wednesday's show, I will be reviewing, I'll do a bit of a how to play as well, Warfighter from Dan Verson Games. This is the modern edition of the game. It is jam-packed with gaming goodness, with war gaming goodness. So there we have that. Of course, Thursday will be the 4th of July, so I will be off the 4th and the 5th. But I'll be back the following Monday, and then the week after that, I will be in San Diego for Comic-Con. But I will also have some standalone videos that I should be floating out there next week. I might actually do the review for the starter set for Call of Cthulhu as a standalone video. I think I'm going to do it as a standalone video because I don't want this to actually be kind of sitting on the shelf collecting dust for a few weeks. All right, so Dan from No Enemies Here's got to run. Catch you later, Dan. We will see you hopefully maybe for tomorrow's show. Enjoy the rest of your night. So I'm looking at that. I also want to do an unboxing video for Aeon's End, which is from Indie Boards and Cards. I did a news piece yesterday about a new standalone expansion that's coming out. I want to say that's in September. I've got some other stuff from Japanime Games. I got a bunch of stuff. So I want to do a few things where I'm just going to do standalone unboxings. Maybe do a few standalone videos for reviews as well. So that is what's coming up on the show. Before I jump into my review of Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay Starter Set. Let me once again point out, the Gaming Gang and thus the Daily Dope are pretty much not-for-profit endeavors, so if you like the website, if you like the channel, if you like the show, by all means, please consider making a small donation to Lil Bub's Big Fund and the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. Yes, Lil Bub's Big Fund does provide grant monies to organizations around the United States who care for special needs animals who are awaiting adoption. These animals might require daily medications, they might have mobility issues, they might be just older, or maybe suffer from more serious complications like blindness or deafness. Regardless, these animals still deserve to find a loving home, and I guarantee they will provide the same amount of love back, multiplied by about 100, as what you give them. So, once again, I like to point out Lil Bub herself is a special needs cat, and you can learn more about Lil Bub at lilbub.com. But if you do make a donation to Lil Bub's Big Fun, shoot me an email. Email address is right down there. It's jeffmcaleer@thegaminggang.com. And let me know. And if you would like, I will give you a shout out on the following show. Also, if you ever have a question or a comment or anything like that, and you want to get in touch, feel free, fire away. You can use that email address, or you can use mailbag@thegaminggang.com. It's your choice. All right, so I know people are tuning in to get my thoughts on what I think of the Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay Starter Set, which is from Cubicle 7 Entertainment. It's written by Andrew Law, Lindsay Law, Andrew Leask, taking a guess on that, my good buddy T.S. Lucart, and another pal of mine, Dominic McDowell, with artwork and graphic design provided by Paul Bourne, Michael Franchina, Ralph Horsley, Andrew Law, Sam Manley, Janine Van Moezel, taking a guess, Jonathan O'Donohue, Scott Purdy, and Aaron Ray. The starter set, I do want to point out, is sold out at the distributor level. Does not mean that you cannot get it in a store or on some online retailer, but for the most part, it is sold out. There is a pre-order over at Cubicle 7 that you can jump on and actually pre-order it for $29.99. That is the MSRP. That also includes free PDF as well. Do want to mention also, I have seen it online at online retailers for about as low as $23. So if saving a few bucks is that big a deal to you, by all means, you can get it for a little bit less. So let's move on over to the other camera. I'm going to pop the old reading specs back on, grab a sip here, and we will kind of dive back into the starter set, which I did an unboxing video not too long ago, and I was very impressed. And I will tell you, I am still very impressed with what we get. So one of the first things I'm going to mention is when I was talking to my pal TS at Origins, because Cubicle 7 was actually at Origins this year, and I heard through the grapevine, a little birdie told me they did really well at the show, which I thought they probably would, because Cubicle 7 usually is not at Origins. But, so my pal TS says he was watching the unboxing video, and he kept saying, Jeff, to himself, he's like, Jeff, look at the back of the box top. Look at the back of the box top. Because there's like your mini GM screen. And once we take everything out, I will show you how this kind of works. And that kind of cracked me up, because it does say that this contains like a mini GM or a basic GM screen. I think those are the exact words. Basic GM screen. And I think that's pretty funny. So what you're supposed to be able to do now, okay, so I'm cheating here. I've got an extra set of dice, because TS gave me an extra set of dice at Origins. So I tossed the extra set into the box, but you only get one set of the percentile dice. Anywho, so what you're supposed to do, I'll take all this stuff out, is the Game Master is supposed to take and put it together like this. So you've got your little Game Master screen right here for you, and then you've got your box for rolling dice or tossing some notes into and stuff like that. I thought that was kind of funny. I got a kick out of that. So they're actually putting the box top to good use. So that is your basic GM screen. And of course, the information that's on this is really focused towards what's in this box. Because this is a starter set. I do want to point that out. So this is not like the core book, all, 360 some pages of the core book, which I reviewed and I think is a really great job as well. So let's move the box out of the way and let's start taking a peek. I'll show off a few of these different things. So first off, let's take a look at these dice. I'm going to zoom in so we can look at these dice. Why is this video is looking really weird? There we go. Let's change this up a little bit. There. Oops. Yeah, it was all kind of almost like it's like a low lighting setting, which it should not have been. So we've got the percentile dice, and they're cool. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're cool. It's like the numbers are on a shield, and then there's like almost like there's a Warhammer above it. They're a little difficult to read. So maybe that's just me because I have to wear reading specs too. But I found them a little difficult to read. It's a little, in my opinion, a little too busy. But yeah, Nefarious is like, hey, you got two of the 10s. I'm like, yeah, I noticed that. I swapped it out. Anyway, so like I said, a little difficult to read, in my opinion. But they're cool dice. Don't get me wrong. You only get one set of the dice in the box. So I have two sets, as I mentioned. My pal TS gave me an extra copy. So we've got those dice. I'll zoom back out. You got the adventure book. And the adventure book is pretty interesting because the adventure book is kind of a learn as you go. So there's a full-length adventure for the players. And then there's a whole slew of... Now, wait a second. What is... Bink. Weird. See, look at this. So the camera was all messed up, and then my little insert wasn't popping up either. So Nefarious says, I think it's one of those Dwarven-style dice from that one company. Yeah, they're actually... It is... I don't think they mention what outside company makes them, but yes, they are from a well-known dice company. So I will point that out. So anyway, so we got the adventure book, and the adventure book pretty much teaches the GM and the players how to play as you go through the adventure. And it's actually a decent length. There you go. Thanks, you Nefarious. It is Q Workshop who makes the dice. But as you're going along, you kind of jump right on in, right? So we get a bit of an introduction, talking about the adventure book, talking about dice, and then we jump right into the first adventure, making the rounds, the full-length adventure. So we'll see these little sidebar areas talking about, okay, simple tests and difficulty, dramatic and opposed tests, and it's teaching you how to play through the adventure. I will point out the adventure is pretty linear. I'm not going to spoil the adventure, but it is rather linear, but it also does bring up a lot of different aspects of the game, which are kind of standard, kind of like the standard operating procedure that the players will get used to as far as playing Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. So, for an example, we get into early on. It's like, okay, so how combat? So the characters get into a fight. Then we get into talking about law and order. One thing that I think is cool too is that for almost every NPC, there is also a picture for that NPC as well. So I thought that was pretty cool. Another thing that this adventure does is it kind of introduces the players to the world of Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, and it's kind of a very specific kind of setting. It's a little bit I don't want to say tongue in cheek. There's a little bit of humor to it, right? I guess we'd almost say, in some ways, kind of sophomoric humor. But I mean, there's a bit of humor to it. It is a harsh world. It is a harsh world that cares nothing about the player characters. So that's all. That also comes across as well. There is magic, but magic is pretty much reviled, I guess is a good word I would use. So I dig the adventure. I will point out though that the adventure, if you're a complete newbie game master, might be a little much. Might be a little much for you because there's a bit going on. And then, of course, experienced game masters, we're used to, making notes, and sometimes we have to come up, write down like a little timeline so we know exactly what's taking place when, or, we might have some flow charts that we jot out real quick, talking about, oh, okay, well, if the player characters go off in this direction, let's kind of try to lean this way, stuff like that, where you're going to do that in this adventure, not necessarily flow charts and things like that, but an experienced game master would actually sit down and make a few notes, come up with kind of a timeline of what's going on in it, whereas a complete newbie might feel a little bit overwhelmed. Not a tremendous amount, just a little bit. So Nefarious says, yeah, they definitely got money from me in the past. I'm not sure if talking about Q Workshop or not. Hey, Kevin Thorpe is joining us here in chat too. Hiya, Kevin. Welcome aboard. So, like Call of Cthulhu impregnated a sassy D&D world and they popped out a wonderfully twisted baby. Okay, Nefarious, you're scaring me with that. A little bit, yeah. There's the chaos gods and stuff like that come into play a lot. The whole Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay setting does have a very, very serious European vibe. And when I say European, I'm not talking like Dungeons and Dragons has a European vibe. I'm talking about Warhammer has kind of that vibe of like the 14th century, 14th, maybe 15th century, because there's gunpowder, there's guns, things like that. So then here we get, this I thought was really interesting too. So we've got Adventures in Ubersreich, and each one is a couple of pages long. So they're more than just adventure nuggets. They're not as like fleshed out as a full adventure, but I thought this was pretty cool. So there are 10 of these, if I remember correctly. So we've got The Hassle of Johann Hoffman, Red Moon Burning, De Littlest Wah, Blood and Snow. Now, some of them are only a page long, but still, that's quite a lot more than you would get in like a story nugget in a lot of different. So Nefarious says, "Well done on the pronunciation." So we've got Memories of Blood, Two Wrongs Make a Right, Old Blue Eyes is Back, Unions and Reunions, Ash in the Wind. Then we've got a breakdown of NPC traits, got a breakdown of conditions, and then we've got the critical wound table on the back and a dramatic test outcome table. So everything in Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay is all percentile dice. All percentile dice. You don't have 6-siders, 10-siders. Oh, well, I should say you don't have like 12-siders, 4-siders, 8-siders. It's all going to be these dice right here. So that was why I was kind of surprised there's only one set of dice in this starter box. I would have thought maybe there'd be 2 or 3. It's not a huge deal. It's just something that kind of threw me off. All right, so we've got the adventure book. I'm going to take a look at, we're going to look at the Guide to Ubersreich last. So we've got some kind of almost like player aid sheets. So we've got injury references. We've got the critical wound table again. So we got this is the combat reference, test references, talking about attributes and skills. Got a bit of an introduction to Ubersreich and the Empire. And then we got conditions. So these three are kind of for the players. The players can have. So Nefarious says, I like their adventure sheets like that with a little extra info. Yeah, compared to a lot of companies, it's a lot of extra info. Sometimes you'll get a role-playing game product and it'll say, oh, and we've got 100 adventure nuggets. And each adventure nugget is like a paragraph. And it's like, yeah, that's a nugget, I guess. A kernel, maybe. I don't know if it's a nugget. So anyway, so we've got these 3 player aids. So these can be easily left out for the players to utilize. Then we have some cool maps. So we've got a map of Ubersreich. We've got the various different barons, the different lords, and where they command. Then we've got kind of an overland map as well. We'll zoom in a little bit. The quality of these maps are really nice. And then we've got the city itself and its surroundings. Then we've got a guide that runs down the side telling us like important locations in the different quarters of the city. I mean, granted, yes, this is fluff, but this is cool fluff. This is very cool fluff. All right, we'll zoom back out a little bit. That threw me off with the camera. I was like, what is going on with that? When I zoom, it was like kind of like super slow-mo. I was like, what is going on? So these are the player character sheets. I like these a lot too. These are really cool. So they fold out and give you information about the game itself, talking about some of the conditions, wounds, things like that. We've got all the characteristics, the skills, talents, talking about the character background over here as well. Give you a bit of more background. And then on the back, we get a nice big image of that character. So I gotta say, I like the artwork in Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay so far. Both in the starter set here as well as the core book. So we've got the Halfling Thief. We've got the Human Wizard. The High Elf Merchant. The Human Witch Hunter. Whoa, whoa, whoa. And we've got the Human Soldier. And then we basically get, when you first open up the box, we get this read this first. And it's just a real quick discussion of, okay, what's in the box? What is this game? What's a role-playing game? And we don't get like 5 pages of... don't get 5 pages of what is a role-playing game, and here's an example of role-playing. So Nefarious says the premates are pimped too. Yeah, they're really nicely done. I will point out that there are no rules in the starter set for character creation or to customize the pre-gen characters. Some people, that might be something important for them. I am up in the air recently as far as starter sets. I like when they include some rules as far as if you want to create your own character. But when it's a starter box, beginner's box, whatever you want to consider them, I don't think it's that critical. So it's just to kind of get your feet wet in the system and everything else. All right, so we've got those goodies. Now we're going to take a look at a guide to Ubersreich. This, if you'll notice, is actually put together differently than the adventure book. So this is actually the guide is kind of it's what you would normally purchase separately. So yes, Nefarious is right. Character creation is pretty huge. It is pretty long. So hey, Viper Dave has popped in. Says there's Viper Dave staying in Chicago near the airport. So close to the awesome YouTube show. Not that close. About an hour. Or more, actually, depending on traffic. But, well, I'm glad. Hey, we're getting rain tonight, too. So hopefully you're not getting rained on. Or you weren't getting rained on, Viper Dave. Anyway, so I was going to say, this is the sort of book that you would purchase separately. This is 64 pages. So this is about the length of a traditional Paizo Inc. Adventure Path release for Pathfinder. So, and those carry an MSRP of $25. So, this being included in the starter set is pretty sweet. And this is a cool book. Now, this isn't going to be the end-all, be-all of the setting, but it gives you a lot of information. And once again, it provides some pretty cool ideas for different adventures. So we've got the opening that's reminiscent of the core book, because the core book opens up with a few pages of the artwork, kind of giving you a bit of a background on Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. So we've got the welcome, so it's going to tell us about the city and the surroundings. Got a timeline of like 3,000 years in here as well. Ah, yes, Pinky has come downstairs. Yes, Pinky, I know you're here. She wants to make her presence known, everybody. Talking about Ubersreich today. Giving us a visitor's guide. Talking about the different quarters of the city itself. We got some pretty cool artwork throughout. Once again, we get some important NPCs. We get artwork for the NPCs as well. So, once you've gone through the adventure book, or you're in the midst of playing the adventure book, there's loads and loads of information here in the guide to really help the game master flesh things out. Yeah, Furious says meow hammer time. Yes. And it's funny, Smokey was down here right before the show started, sacked out on my lap. She hopped off about 5 minutes before I started the stream tonight. Okay, so, and then, cool thing too is, like, just about every place, every person in this guide, there's some sort of tie-in. There's some sort of, like, little hint or little piece of advice as far as, you know, including that or them in an adventure, which I thought was really, really well done. The rat catchers. Rat catchers are actually pretty good starting characters because they got that small, but what is it? Small, but it's not tenacious. Small but vicious dog is one of their main like piece of equipment. They get that small but vicious dog. All right, so there is not a a specific adventure that's set up in this book, but there are loads and loads of ideas for scenarios, adventures, and things like that. Then we kind of get into we get some monsters. We get a little bit of a bestiary. The sewers. There's always sewers. Yes, the Furious says yes. It's the small vicious dog. All right, and then we get the Providence, the surrounding area around the city. And that is pretty much what we get with the guide to Ubersreich. So, like I said, a lot of good information here. I can't say it's, you know, the greatest city gazetteer I've ever seen, but it is really nicely done. And there's a lot packed into the 64 pages here. So, Nefarious says, yes, they need a monster manual for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 4th edition. I agree. I gotta be honest, I think there are a lot of people out there who are pretty much digging on the beginner, the starter set here, playing that, and they're just biding their time for the Enemy Within campaign to start coming out. I think that's what a lot of people are doing. All right, so there was one other thing. Where is it? That I really didn't share. Oh, here we go. Couple of things, actually. Okay, so anyway, we get an ad for the new adventure scenarios, which are from Graham Davis, written by Graham Davis. Cubicle 7 just sent me the PDF for Rough Nights and Hard Days, because I think for some reason there had been some issues with some errata or something like that. So anyway, so we get this, we get some handouts with rumors that the players may have heard, and we also get a handout for the players for gear. Not a ton of it, but just kind of give you an idea of trappings. So like bottle of wine, pint of ale, leather jerkin, a sling, knuckle dusters. And we get some punchboard tokens. So we get those as well. So we also have the pre-generated characters. We've got the read this first. We've got the cool maps. We got the introduction to Ubersreich and the Empire. We got some reference sheets for the players and Game Master as well. We've got the guide to Ubersreich. We've got the adventure book. We've got the basic Game Master screen. So Nefarious says they expect that I'll get a review copy of the Enemy Within series piece by piece. I'm hoping. I never know. I never know. The other thing we got, too, is a set of the dice from Q Workshop. Put those in. And that is what we find in the Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay starter set, which, unfortunately, as I pointed out, is out of stock. You might be able to find it in some places, but as far as like the distribution level, on the distributor level, it is sold out. But you can pre-order it still for $29.99 from Cubicle 7 Entertainment. That also includes the PDF. So you get the PDF for that as well. So, what do I think of the starter set? I think you could probably tell that I'm pretty impressed. I really, really like it. I like the adventure book, how it's teaching you how to play as you go along. So I dig that. I dig where it's not just, okay, here's a little rule book. It's not our full-fledged 3 core book series that you got to have. It's just a little rule book, and then here's a standalone adventure. That's fine. I don't have any problem with that. That's cool. And I happen to be a fan of the Dungeons & Dragons starter set. That's why I'm looking forward to the Essentials kit, because what it's supposed to be is really just a new starter set for D&D, from what I understand. But we're not talking about D&D here. We're talking about Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, the starter set. So I like the adventure book. I think the Ubersreich guide that's included as well. You figure you're looking at a $30 MSRP. Just that guide itself would normally sell for about $25. It really would. So right there, you're getting tons of value in this. You get the set of dice. Like I said, the dice are cool. I just found them a little difficult to read. I would assume some other people have an issue with that as well. I think the pre-generated characters are really well done. Would it be nice if there were some ways to customize those characters a little bit? Yes. But, I don't think it's that big a deal that there's no character generation rules or anything like that in this as well. All in all, I think it's really, really well done. It's very well written. The adventure, although it's linear, it is fun. It does introduce the players to the world of Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, and kind of a little bit of the twisted humor, a little bit of the horror role-playing aspect of it, as well as the uncaring world. So, which is a big shock for some players of fantasy role-playing games, because you're used to playing big heroic characters at first level. Like, I'm a first level character, I'm a big deal. Whereas that's not really the case in Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, which is cool. I dig that. As far as negatives, I gotta be honest, I really don't have any. I really don't. Yes, I wish there were some more dice in the box. At least a set for the GM and a set for the players. Because, most of these starter sets have some dice. We saw, a dozen dice, a dozen six-siders in the Shadowrun beginner box. The Call of Cthulhu set has a full set of polyhedral dice, as well as an extra percentile die. I was like, which is an extra die 20? No. So, yeah, that's like the only knock that I really have. Also got to point out, Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay is not going to be everybody's bag of tricks. There is a bit of an English, a British tone to the game, which obviously enough it should have, because it's created over in the UK. So it has been for decades. So all in all, at the end of the day, I got to be honest, I came really, really close to giving this a 10 out of 10. Really close to giving it a 10 out of 10. Can't do it. Can't give it the 10 out of 10. But on a scale of 10, I do give the Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay starter set a very, very solid 9.7 out of 10. It is that good. I definitely recommend, if you have any interest whatsoever in taking a peek at what is Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay about, you owe it to yourself to pick this up. You really do. Even if you're not all that interested in the actual mechanical system for Riffum, or whatever they like to call it, Wifrip. Yeah, I can't actually come up with. I forget. I think they call it Wifrip. Whatever. Even if you aren't interested in the mechanics and the system for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, and I can see that's an acquired taste. I will point that out. It is an acquired taste. Just the adventure alone and the guide, I mean, you can easily port that stuff over to just about any fantasy system you want. So there we go. That is it for today's show. So Nefarious says that they believe the first part of the Enemy Within campaign should be out in retail in a couple of months. I don't know for sure, because I didn't really talk about that with TS at Origins, but I do believe that they're hoping to have the first entry, not the limited edition, but just the first entry, as well as the companion, because they're going to release 5 parts. Each one of the parts is going to actually have the adventure book, the supplement, and then a companion to that, which adds like more to it. Almost along the lines of like kind of the guide to Masks of Nyarlathotep for Call of Cthulhu. But I think they're going to try to get that out at Gen Con. At least the first part, just the standard retail edition. I'm not positive it'll be there. Kind of like Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay's core book last year. They didn't make it to Gen Con with it, so that was disappointing. All right, so as I mentioned on tomorrow's show, I will be unboxing and taking a first look at Champions of Hera from Greenbrier Games. So hopefully you will join me on a Friday night for that. But as I like to point out, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in gaming news, reviews, comics, movies, TV. By now you know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. So those of you who joined me in chat, thank you very much for hanging out with me once again. Always a lot of fun having people floating things out and talking amongst themselves. So thank you very much for hanging out in chat. If you were watching live and did not jump into chat, why not? Everybody's pretty nice. I don't bite, as long as you're not nasty. Then I do bite pretty hard. But anyway, and of course, if you are watching after the fact, after the live stream, I love you just as much, and I appreciate you tuning in as well. So everybody enjoy the rest of your Thursday night. I'll be back tomorrow. Until then, have a great evening. Thanks again for watching The Daily Dope, presented by The Gaming Gang. If you like this episode, be sure to give it a quick thumbs up. And if you dig the channel, please subscribe. If you'd like to check out our previous episode, click right here. And if you want to check out a somewhat randomly selected episode, give a click right down here. It'll be like opening a box of Cracker Jacks. You just don't know what you'll get. Once again, thanks for watching, and I'm Jeff McAleer.